According to Craig Haney, the psychologist behind the Stanford Prison Experiment, rehabilitation has taken a backseat to a get-tough-on-crime approach that sees punishment as prison's main function. The approach has created explosive growth in the prison population, while having at most modest effects on crime rates. Since the 1970s, prisons in America have been shifting to more punitive approaches rather than rehabilitative. This has led to overcrowding, abuse, and overall ineffectiveness in rehabilitating criminals. Among the many controversial issues surrounding the American prison system, overcrowding and violence are incredibly common due to poor management and organization. According to the Sentencing Project, there has been a 500% increase in the prison population over the past 40 years. An article by the American Psychological Association states, the United States now has more than 2 million people in prisons or jails, the equivalent of 1 in every 142 U.S. residents, and another 4 to 5 million people on probation or parole. A higher percentage of the population is involved in the criminal justice system of the U.S. than in any other developed country. Unfortunately, this overcrowding has led to an alarming increase in violence. The Federal Bureau of Prisons found that there were 250 counts of less serious assault per every 5,000 inmates in June of 2018, as well as 20 counts of serious assault per every 5,000 inmates in that same month. This issue is incredibly widespread, spanning across prisons throughout the nation. As the prison population continues to increase, prison staff struggle to maintain order with such limited numbers. According to an article by the New York Times, from December 2016 to March of 2018, the number of correctional officer vacancies, including supervisory roles, grew by almost 64%, from 2,137 to 1,306, according to the Bureau. Thus, inmates are not the only ones who have been affected by the shortcomings of the criminal justice system. As the number of prison staff has been reduced, the risk of violence in prisons has been heightened. This overcrowding and resultant violence likely stems from discrimination among minorities and those with mental illness. The Sentencing Project found that 1 in 17 white men are incarcerated, whereas 1 in 3 black men and 1 in 6 Hispanic men end up in prison. Furthermore, the Department of Justice found that 15 to 20% of inmates within the U.S. all have mental illness. According to Thomas Fagan, a retired prison psychologist, prisons have really become, in many ways, the de facto mental health hospitals. But prisons weren't built to deal with mentally ill people. They were built to deal with criminals doing time. To make matters worse, this punitive approach more often triggers mental illness rather than treats it. One solution to this problem would be to create more rehabilitative programs. According to Craig Haney, this is what prison systems do under emergency circumstances. They move to punitive social control mechanisms. But it's a very short-term solution, and one that may do more damage to both the system and to the individuals than it solves. He also noted, the abandonment of rehabilitation also resulted in the erosion of modestly protective norms against cruelty towards prisoners. Not only do rehabilitative programs help prevent criminals from returning to their criminal tendencies once they are released, but it also prevents violence between prison staff and inmates. Rehabilitative programs also help prevent recidivism after release. Furthermore, the National Institute of Justice found that within 5 years of release, there were about 3/4, or 76.6%, of released prisoners who were rearrested. Although it may seem expensive, enforcing more rehabilitative programs would be far more cheap than having to account for an excess of criminals. Another solution would be to hire more prison staff and educate them about the needs of inmates. According to an article by the New York Times, many prisons have been operating in a perpetual state of staffing turmoil, leaving some workers feeling ill-equipped and unsafe on the job, according to interviews and internal documents from the Bureau. Thus, more staff are needed to reduce the amounts of violence and to maintain order within prisons. As prisons have become more punitive, they have become less effective at reintegrating inmates back into society. In order to combat these detrimental effects, such as overcrowding, violence, and discrimination, rehabilitative programs are needed. We must hold on to hope for others, regardless of their past mistakes. Rehabilitative justice will ensure that this hope lives on in the criminal justice system. Thank you.